Hello. Today's video is about something called unconventional grief that happens after narcissistic abuse. Most people assume there's only one type of grief, the grief that happens when someone you love dies, but there's other types as well. People also can grieve when they move, get a divorce, or lose a job. There's also something known as anticipatory grief, which happens when someone you know is dying. Unconventional grief is different. It's grief that's triggered by unique circumstances. I experienced it when learning about my many new limitations because of how damaged my brain and body were after surviving carbon monoxide poisoning. It also can happen when someone is diagnosed with a mental illness or when a loved one has a substance abuse problem. Unconventional grief also can happen as a result of trauma and abuse. When you grow up with a narcissistic parent or two, you finally learn about narcissism, and although it's a great thing, it also can trigger grief. Suddenly you realize that you're not the problem, which certainly is good news, of course, but realizing what your parent was is difficult and painful to accept. It hurts the one person who was supposed to love you unconditionally didn't, and lacks the ability to do so. You also realize how much your parent took from you, such as your childhood and your self-esteem. And it suddenly hits you there's no hope for your relationship. Prior to learning about narcissistic personality disorder, most people have some hope that one day their parent will realize what she did, and she'll apologize and change for the better. Learning about NPD, though, squelches that hope completely. That is a tough pill to swallow. Facing these ugly truths absolutely can cause a person to grieve, and it's extremely painful. It's also difficult to understand because of the limited view of grief that most people have. How can you actually grieve when the person in question is still alive? Well, it's surprisingly easy to do, actually. When my father died in October of 2017, I didn't cry much. I cry easily, especially when losing someone I love. But then I didn't. I barely even felt sad that he was gone. No doubt any of my family that's probably reading this thinks it's because I'm a cold, evil, horrible person, but that's not the case. It's because I grieved him so much when he was alive that his death didn't have a really profound effect on me in that sense. And you know something? Many other adult children of narcissistic parents I've spoken with have said they feel the exact same way when their parent died. Unconventional grief can be incredibly difficult, but you can get through it. Pray often. You're going to need God's wisdom, guidance, and comfort to get through this. Don't judge your emotions either. Just accept them. Examine them without judgment or criticism. Feel them. Pray, talk, or write about them to help you cope. Anger is an especially common part of this sort of grief. If you feel a lot of anger at this time, it's normal. I know you probably grew up like most of us with narcissistic parents did, and believing you're not allowed to be angry. Well, stop it now. Face the anger and deal with your feelings. That pain will lose its power over you once you face it. You also may start to remember some good times as well. They are good to remember, but don't forget the bad as well. Embrace the good and heal from the bad. Write in a journal. Writing is incredibly cathartic, plus it'll help you to have documentation. You may even at one point decide that you enjoy writing and opt to start a blog or write a book. Find online support groups and websites. Learning that others are experiencing similar things to you is incredibly helpful. Don't expect this grief to end entirely. It definitely will get better, but it may never end entirely. It's kind of like losing a loved one. You grieve the most and the hardest right after that person died, but even many years later, the pain's still there. It's just not as intense as it was at first. If you're experiencing unconventional grief, just know you're not alone. You can survive this. It'll take hard work and it won't be easy, but you definitely can do it. Thank you for watching my video.